All right, so keyboard shortcuts inside of Ableton are a little different than Reaper, obviously. It's a different program, different mindset, but it's not too complicated. I'll go through it now and show you kind of the way around making your own shortcuts and kind of the way they lay it out. So this is a scene I created for live performance, the last live performance I did. Ableton's pretty straightforward as far as keyboard shortcut commands are concerned. There's a lot of flexibility built into this. Say you wanted to do the same thing in Reaper that we did, but in Ableton, and check out the shortcut commands and see how you can make your workflow more fluid. And how will we do that is we're gonna do the same thing as we did in Reaper, as we're gonna go and find the shortcut command list, which is in the help document. So let's check it out. So where are they in Ableton? They're up here in help. You go to help, then you go read the live manual. So it'll open up a web browser. It'll go to their web page on the internet. I'm not a huge fan of that because, you can't really be disconnected from the internet, but whatever. Everybody has their different way of doing things. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna roll all the way down the bottom and you're gonna click live keyboard shortcuts. It's broken down really nicely. They have different sections working with sets and programs like Control N, Command N, and they have the Windows and Mac right next to each other, which is great. Exporting, devices, editing, really standard stuff, but all very, very well laid out, very intuitive. Ableton actually has this really great set of tutorials if you want to get started with Ableton for the first time. You just go up here to your help menu and say built-in lessons, and it brings up this little panel inside of Live, and you can click on each of these things and kind of go through the basics of how to do things, Max for Live, that kind of thing. If you have Ableton Suite, which I do, it's all right there for you. But as far as I'm concerned with the keyboard shortcuts, I would just either print them out, copy paste them to something else, or just bookmark it inside your browser just so you can get to it more easily. I love this, that they have all this stuff in here. I live and die by keyboard shortcuts, so this is really nice for me. As far as making your own shortcuts, it's actually fairly simple in Live with a few caveats. The first thing I'm gonna do is there's this built-in function inside of Ableton where you can actually use the computer keyboard to trigger notes. We don't want to use that function just because we're going to be assigning shortcuts. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. That's in the upper right here. I'm going to just click this off. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do to map new key commands inside of Ableton, I'm going to go up here to the right and hit this key button. Couldn't be more simple, right? So everything you'll see just turns orange. It's got these orange blocks over pretty much everything that you can have a keyboard shortcut for. Transport controls, faders, pan, mute and solo, of course, all that stuff. This is a way to create your own version of it just so you can, kind of get around the software more easily and customize it, make it your own. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how simple this is. So check this out. I'm going to go up here, and this is actually the overdub. Some of these are pre-assigned already. Play is spacebar, and there's a few other ones. But I'm going to hit this plus button here, this is the MIDI overdub. By default in programs like Machine, overdub's the default, but that's not the case in Ableton. So if you wanted to do that and toggle it on and off, which is useful, sometimes you want to overwrite it, sometimes you want to overlay. Overwrite would replace everything that you put down MIDI note wise, and overlay would just add to it. So a lot of times when I'm making drum parts especially, I'll do the kick and the snare, and then I'll add the hi-hats or cymbals or toms or whatever later. So that's a useful thing for me. So I'm gonna wanna use a keyboard shortcut for that. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna click on this plus, and it's gonna highlight it. So the only other thing I need to do is hit a key on my keyboard to assign it, and we're good. Hit O for overlay, and if you'll see, there's an O superimposed over this thing right now. So you can see that that actually is assigned to that. And on the left-hand side, when I hit the key, this panel appeared, it says key mappings. Okay, so this says keys, path transport, and name. So arrangement, overlay, or overdub, okay? So this key O is now assigned to overdub. So if I were to hit the key button again over on the right side, and I were to go ahead and hit the O key now, if you see on the screen right now, I'm toggling that on and off. That's overdub is actually toggling on and off. So it's really easy to do. And it's really visual too. So you have this text list on this, I'm hitting key again. You see this key mapping dialog on the left that's embedded in the interface really nicely. And you've got very obviously what that is assigned to. So let's do some more. Let's say I want to have something assigned to my stop key, just to stop everything at once. All right, I want to use the number keys, say. So I want to go up here, I'm going to click on the stop button right here, and it's going to highlight it just like it did for the overdub button. So I'm going to go ahead onto my computer keyboard, I'm going to hit the 1 key, And immediately you'll see that pops up right there. And it's on this list on the left-hand side. Good to go. All right, I think I'm done for now. All right, I'm gonna go and hit key, and that's gonna bring it back to normal mode. I'm gonna go ahead and launch this clip here by hitting the enter key, and it's just gonna go ahead and launch this song that 16,000 Days that I performed live, and like say, oh, I didn't really mean to do that. Let's hit stop. One, done, right? So it's really, really simple to set up the keyboard commands on your keyboard. There's one caveat for setting up keyboard commands inside of Ableton. It's actually a feature rather than a bug. Each session that you create keyboard commands, it will not retain unless you save it as a default live set. So this key mapping is going to disappear as soon as I exit this session. This is not going to be there anymore. So in order to get this coming back every time, we're going to go up to the file menu here, we're going to scroll down, and we're going to click Save Live Set as Default Set, okay? This is going to cause kind of a problem because this scene is actually one that I'm using already, and it's quite large. It's a live set that I did. There's lots of virtual instruments involved, effects plugins, you name it, things piped into it. It's probably not going to be the best way to do this. So if you want to do these kind of things by default, I would recommend starting a new scene first. So let's do that. Control N and don't save. And what it's going to do is going to clear it out and make a fresh new scene. If I want to, I can create those keyboard commands by default, but I have to do it again manually. So all right, let's do it quick. Key plus O, right? Also, I'm still in here, so I'm going to hit the stop button, and then I'm going to hit 1 for the key. Okay, that's it. That's everything I needed to do. Now you save the default set. So let's go over and go to File, and then go to Save Live Set as Default Set. And it's called Untitled right now. Let's just say Key Mapping General 1. All right. I'm a fan of version numbers. So now we've got those mappings. If we hit key again, you'll see them in this list on the left side. You'll see them overlaid on top of these different buttons as we set them up, right? So how do we know that this is going to retain itself? We hit Control N. We say, no, I don't want to save it. And it gives us a whole fresh new scene. But now, if I hit this key button again, you'll see that those are actually assigned. There's a lot of grumbling on Ableton's forums about this issue. I think it's kind of helpful. I can see where they're coming from with it. I probably wouldn't use kind of global keyboard commands in general just because I don't use Ableton like that. I use Ableton for live stuff specifically. So I'm gonna open up this live scene real quick and I'll show you how I would use this normally. Okay, so here's my live set again. The things that I would use inside of Ableton is I would trigger the next scene. Enter is really just as easy as you can do it, but you can assign keys to pretty much anything. So in a live setting, I probably wouldn't be using the keyboard just because it's really boring to watch somebody use a laptop on a stage. You've seen it, I've seen it, it's boring. So what I would do instead is to map it to my keyboard controller that I have on the stage with me so it looks a little more, kind of like I'm involved in the music rather than the keyboard. It's just a stigma that's attached to laptops. It's understandable. It's the same reason you're taking this course. What I would do instead is I would go up here and instead of doing a key mapping, I would do a MIDI mapping. And it's similar to the way I showed you in Reaper, mapping instruments to keyboard controls, but in here we're gonna actually do some functionality in addition to that. So I'm gonna change a macro instead. So I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna hit MIDI, and everything turns blue instead of orange, all right? So I'm gonna go down here to this Ractivator. The Ractivator is a chain, what's called a chain, and it goes to different songs within my set. So I would just go down here and I would say, okay, this Ractivator right here, I would be clicking on this and I would say, all right, well, this is my chain selector for my different virtual instruments for each song. And what I wanna do is I wanna have this something I can change on the fly. So I would go, we're set up, we clicked on it, and then the only other thing we need to do is put our keyboard in MIDI mode, how we'd be using it during the set. And I would grab this little knob here, CC14, and if you look, it says 114 right there, as soon as I turn that knob. So I would go up here and hit MIDI again, and if you look down here now in the show instrument group, I'm gonna hit MIDI on my keyboard again because it just bounced me into the native instruments interface instead. And I would go here, and if you see, I'm changing now my set to different songs. So I can light up different plugins and change it on the fly. really easy to do. It's a killer combination. For production, I would probably recommend you would use keyboard commands just because it's easier and you don't have to remap and you want to play and record and things like that. If you have a complete control keyboard, you can use their kind of special integration, that kind of stuff, and you wouldn't want to use that. So you probably want to stick to the keys and do a key mapping versus a MIDI mapping. But for live stuff, for me, it's a game changer to have that MIDI mapping also available. Anyway, that is how you customize keyboard shortcuts and do MIDI mappings inside of Ableton.